Bonjour, Anin, Tansei, Maskwamisi Kwe, Yuango Gugu Kwe, Mainlandu Dam, Winnipeg Dunji. Hi, I'm Jolene, I'm from West Central Women's Resource Center, and welcome to Reconciliation Month here at West Central Women's Resource.
Hi, my name is Lorie and Jolene. I'm the Executive Director here at West Central Women's Resource Center. I'm so glad that you're joining us. This is a very important month for our center, and so thanks for being here with us. We're going to talk a little bit today about why we do this and why it's important to us as an organization.
Mm-hmm. So one of the questions we're asked is, what is Reconciliation Month and why did we start it? Do you want to take that one?
Sure. Yeah, so back in 2017 when the calls to action were released out of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, as an agency that serves a high percentage of Indigenous people, it was important for us to think about how we could participate and be actors in the reconciliation process. And so one of the first things we did as a staff team was reviewed all of the calls to action and identified within ourselves individually and then as teams and then as a full staff team what calls we felt like we needed to address here at the center. And we made a commitment that year to really set a plan forward on how we would address those calls to action that we had identified. And we thought there's no better way to hold ourselves accountable to those commitments than to take the time once a year. And we started that in Canada's 150th birthday because we really felt like celebrating that anniversary didn't acknowledge that there had been many, many years of Indigenous peoples living and taking care of this land. And so we wanted to use the month of July, kicking off on July 1st, as our month to honor the contributions of Indigenous people throughout this country. And so we do that now every month.
Yeah, every year.
Sorry, every year, yes, not every month.
As an Indigenous woman working within this organization, I've seen many, many changes since I've been here, and I've grown to really appreciate the allies that I have in this space. So thanks for all the work that the staff do here to educate themselves. So another one of the questions is, what have we done in the past? What have we done in past reconciliation months? So in 2017, the first year we did Indigenous leaders, which I thought was really great because we highlighted them from, we did city, province, national, and internationally, and I learned a lot that year. So that was a really great year. And then in 2018 was Indigenous Communities of Manitoba map exercise showing where people were from. And we did that in the drop-in, so we had some things out there and pins for people to put where they're from, and opportunities for our community to talk about, I think there was 3 questions, right? It was like, what's good about your community, what's lacking in your community, and what's your favorite part of your community. And it was a really great way to connect with our community here in the drop-in. That was really fun as well. And then last year we did a lot of education work. So commitments to MMIWG. We had our first full moon ceremony, which was a great success. We held it at Grizzly Bear Park. There was 65 folks in attendance, so it was really lovely. Flower exercise. The flower exercise was brought by Karina, who is of Mexican descent. And that's something that they do in their Indigenous communities in Mexico. It was a very beautiful exercise to be a part of. Talked about the middle and the community, the person-centered, and then all the petals around the flower were all of the pieces. And when you took one away, it sort of fell apart, right? So that was their aspect. And so it was kind of like the medicine wheel. It was really great exercise to be a part of. Blanket exercise for not just for staff but for community. That was a tough one, but we got through it as a community, so yeah. And then of course every year we've committed to every year reporting back our commitments to TRC and the MMIWG report. And it's a slow move, but at the same time, I'm very proud. I'm very, very proud of us. So.
Yeah, I think it has to be slow to be intentional. And it doesn't mean that we aren't committed to seeing it all done, but we want to do it in a good way and make sure that that we keep moving forward and never back in our commitments. And last year was a big year for me, I think, with the release of the calls for justice from the MMIWG report and seeing how tangible and real those calls were for the work that we do every day. It felt natural and really easy to commit to working differently and to really working hard to support Indigenous women in their calls for justice and to changing the way that we interact with community, and that has brought a lot of great learning for me and I think for the whole staff team.
Absolutely. And then there's what are we doing this year?
So thanks for joining us this year. This is the kickoff to this year, and one of the things we wanted to celebrate this year was we know that there are such amazing, remarkable innovators, Indigenous innovators in our community, and we thought, we're learning more about them every day as we get to know our community better, and we wanted to help you get to know them as well. So each day this month, we're going to take a different Indigenous innovator and tell you a little bit about what they're doing to make their communities better. And we're going to follow a similar model to what we did the first year, in that week one, we'll look at local innovators here, so the folks who are living and residing in Winnipeg right now. And then in week two, we're going to take a look at Manitoba as a full province. Week three, we'll head to Canada-wide country initiatives. And then in week four, we'll wrap it up with Indigenous innovators from all around the world. So you'll see 31, or maybe not quite, 28 at least, different Indigenous innovators and the projects that they're working on over the course of this month. So that's one of the big things that we're doing.
Yes.
We're going to keep doing some ceremony online. JoJo has started and is welcoming us each week with a Monday morning smudge, which has been a beautiful way to start your week. If you haven't joined us for that yet, please check that out Monday mornings. And then we'll be doing full moon ceremony. It's a little bit odd to be doing ceremony online right now, but this is the best way we can do it.
Ceremony online is really, really nerve-wracking. There are aspects of it that we can't share. That's just, out of respect. But we do the best that we can, and I have a great knowledge keeper that I sit with, Carolyn Moore, who's very helpful in that way. And our fire keeper, Melvin Moore, who is an amazing man. So they help to guide me in doing that work in a really good way and with the best of intention. So I invite you all to come and check that out. And then reporting back.
So this is a big part of what we do every month during Reconciliation Month, and it's our way to be accountable to community, to the commitments that we made. And so during this month, we report back to our community, and you'll find it posted on our website, what we've done in the last year to honor our commitments, both to the calls for action from the TRC report, as well as the calls for justice from the MMIWG report. So this year is our first year reporting back on the MMIWG report, and we've had a number of years now of practice with the TRC calls to action. So those report backs will come out towards the end of the month. In addition, this year we're going to put out some roadmaps of what our next year ahead holds, so that we can let community know what we're planning on taking on in this coming year. And that's a really important part of our process as staff, to reflect on where we did well, where maybe we didn't quite hit the mark that we were aiming for, and to put some good solid plans in place for how we're going to keep moving that that line forward every year.
Yeah, absolutely. Looks to me like we're also going to have training. We haven't had anything official yet, but there's going to be a lot of training in Métis culture and history, governance. So we're looking to get into some of that kind of work as well. And I personally am very excited about that. Yeah. And then, of course, the big, $1 million question, what does reconciliation mean and look like to you?
Yeah, it's always a big question when we think about it, and I think for me it means so many things. First, it means just acknowledging the sacrifice of Indigenous peoples and recognizing that it wasn't a willing sacrifice, that they're sharing their land and resources with all of us who have settled here in these territories, and Treaty 1 territory is where I reside right now. And I feel like it's important for me not only to honor the people who came before me, but to ensure that I'm doing everything I can every day to make sure that there's equity for Indigenous people. And we aren't seeing that in our communities right now. We're seeing a lot of violence towards Indigenous bodies. We're seeing discrimination and racism in our systems and in everyday life that Indigenous people experience. And as a white settler, I see it as my responsibility to participate in the dismantling of those systems, in tipping those scales of equity, because it's a privilege for me to live on these lands. And I feel so honored to be accompanied in my own journey of learning, and I still have lots to learn, by people like Jojo, who's been a great knowledge sharer for me and a guide and teacher to me, as well as the folks that she mentioned, Carol and Melvin, who are amazing knowledge keepers that we work with here at the center, and so many others who have been generous with their knowledge and patient with me while I figure my own stuff out and how I figure out how to be a better Indigenous ally. And that work isn't easy, and sometimes it's hard and uncomfortable, but it's the work that has to be done. And I think my process of decolonizing my own thinking and my own way of working as an individual then translates into how I work here at the agency and how I encourage our staff to work. And we're not perfect at it, for sure, but I think we try every year to get better and better, and I believe we're headed in the right direction.
I think so. I really think so. That question for me is really simple. What does reconciliation mean and look like to me? It means it's going to be messy and uncomfortable. It means that there's a lot of work to be done for myself, and it means that we're heading in the right direction. And it looks like a brighter future for my family, my offspring, my grandchildren and their children, so forth and so on. Reconciliation means the world to me, and I know that it means the world to my community and to all of the communities that we work with here. And I think we're going about it in the right way, and I'm looking forward to being uncomfortable with you for the rest of the month.
I can't wait. I hope you'll stay and be uncomfortable with us as well. I think we've got some really great opportunities for learning in store for this month, and most of it's going to be guided by Jojo, and yeah, I hope you'll join us.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.